हरिः ओम्। नमः सर्वेभ्यः। अष्टाध्यायी परिचयः इत्यस्य अद्य षोडशः पाठः। अस्मिन् वर्गे सूत्राणां गौणप्रभेदानां किञ्चित् अध्ययनं कुर्मः। शुक्लाम्बरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। येनाक्षरसमाम्नायमधिगम्य महेश्वरात् कृत्स्नं व्याकरणं प्रोक्तं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः। वाक्यकारं वररुचिं भाष्यकारं पतञ्जलिं पाणिनिं सूत्रकारं च प्रणतोऽस्मि मुनित्रयम्। अस्माकं वर्गस्य प्रयोजनद्वयम्। अष्टाध्याय्याः आहत्य 400 सूत्राणां व्याख्यासहितम् उदाहरणसहितं च अध्ययनं, तथा च अष्टाध्याय्याः प्रथमाध्यायस्य प्रथमपादस्य कण्ठस्थीकरणम्। प्रारभामहे। तत्र ह्यस्तनवर्गस्य सन्दर्भेण केचन संशयाः अनन्तरं पृष्टाः आसन्, परन्तु अद्य वर्गस्य अन्ते तेषां विषये किञ्चित् वदिष्यामि। इदानीं विषयस्य प्रारम्भं कुर्मः। ह्यस्तने वर्गे अस्माभिः सूत्रप्रभेदानां मुख्यानां सूत्रप्रभेदानाम् अध्ययनं कृतं। तत्र अस्माभिः अधीतम् अष्टाध्याय्यां विद्यमानानां सूत्राणां सौलभ्येन अवगमनार्थं तेषां कार्यं दृष्ट्वा षट् प्रामुख्येन भेदाः कृताः वर्तन्ते। संज्ञा च परिभाषा च विधिर्नियम एव च अतिदेशोऽधिकारश्च षड्विधं सूत्रमुच्यते। There is a small typing mistake over here. एतान् मुख्यान् भेदान् विहाय केचन अन्ये अपि गौणभेदाः अवश्यं सम्भवन्ति इति अपि मया पूर्वस्मिन् वर्गे पाठितम्. So there is no hard and fast rule that you only need to have 6 categories. It is mainly for your own understanding, so you can create 60 categories also. Nobody stops you. So if you think logically, outside these 6 main categories, some other secondary categories can also be created. So Pratishedha Sutram, Nipatana Sutram, Vibhasha Sutram, Adesha Sutram, Agama Sutram, Lopa Sutram, Dvitva Sutram, Chandasa Sutram, and so on. एतेभ्यः आदेशसूत्रम् इति सरलमस्ति। येन सूत्रेण कश्चन आदेशः विधीयते तत् आदेशसूत्रम्। आगमसूत्रमपि तादृशं। येन सूत्रेण विशिष्टः आगमः उच्यते तद् आगमसूत्रम्। येन सूत्रेण लोपस्य विधानं क्रियते तद् लोपसूत्रम्। द्वित्वस्य च विधानं क्रियते तद् द्वित्वसूत्रम्। छान्दससूत्रम् इत्युक्ते तत् सूत्रं यत् केवलं वैदिकरूपाणां सिद्ध्यर्थम् एव प्रयुज्यते. So there are a lot of sutras in Ashtadhyayi that can only be used to derive the forms that are seen in the Vedas. So Vedas have already been written and a specific set of forms are present over there which are being derived using these sutras. So we say Chhamdasa Sutram. So for example, Om Bhadram Karnebhihi Shrunuyama Devaha. So for the word Karna, technically the Tritiya Bahuvachanam would be Karnaihi. But the Prayoga used in this particular verse is Karnebhihi. So there is a sutram in Ashtadhyayi which will tell you that a different form is generated only for Vedas. So these kind of sutras are the Chandasa sutras. So these basic types, I don't need to elaborate on them, on these at the moment. As the course proceeds, we are going to learn significant details about Adeshas, Agamas, Lopa, Dvitva, and so on. So in today's class, I want to focus on these 3 other main important categories: Pratishedha Sutram, Nipatana Sutram, and Vibhasha Sutram. Etesham trayanam adya asmin varge adhyanam kurmah. Now the point to understand here is that the number of Bhedas that you can create is any. I mean, you can keep on doing further Bhedas as well. परंतु यत्र अस्माभिः षट् मुख्याः भेदाः कृताः सन्ति, संज्ञा परिभाषा विधिः नियमः अतिदेशः तथा अधिकारः, तत्र एतेषु अन्येषु इत्युक्ते प्रतिषेधसूत्रं, निपातनसूत्रम्, आदेशसूत्रम्, आगमसूत्रम्, एतेषु अन्येषु भेदेषु समाविष्टानि सूत्राणि अपि संज्ञा परिभाषा विधिः एतेषु एकस्मिन् गणे अवश्यम् अंतर्भवन्ति. So when we say there are 6 main categories, all 4000 sutras are being divided into these 6 categories. You can create additional categories and say a certain sutra is a pratishedha sutram, a certain sutram is a nipatana sutram, but that sutram will still be either samya or paribhasha or vidhi or niyama and so on. So yatra kevalam mukhya bhedanam eva chintanam kriyate, tatra sarve gauna bhedaha api mukhya bhedeshu eva antarbhavanti. So for example, here is a sutram vibhasha diksamase bahuvrihau. Now clearly there is a word vibhasha over here, so it takes no brain to say it is a vibhasha sutram. But at the same time, this is a sutram that gives the sarvanama samnya. So it is a samnya sutram. Similarly, the immediate next sutram, na bahuvrihau. It is a pratishedha sutram because there is the word na, negation over there. But it is also a sutram in the Sarvanama Samnya Prakaranam. So again, it is a Samnya Sutram. Anena Prakarena Mukhya Bhedanam eva Chintanam Kriyate chet Sarvepi Gauna Bhedaha Mukhya Bhedeshu eva Antarbhavanti. Tathapi Adhyayana Saulabhyartham Gauna Bhedanam Pruthak Adhyayanam Avashyam Upayogi Vartate Ataha Tat Adhyanam Idanim Adya Asmabhihi Asmin Varge Karishyate. And as I mentioned earlier, यद्यपि तत्र बहवः भेदाः सन्ति, अस्मिन् वर्गे केवलं त्रयाणाम् एव भेदानाम् अद्य पाठे अध्ययनं कुर्मः. प्रतिषेधसूत्रं, which is just one slide, निपातनसूत्रं, which is just 1 or 2 slides, and vibhasha sutram, which is probably 6-7 slides. A lot of stuff is to be discussed about the vibhasha sutram. So let us start. Pratishedha sutrani. Very simple, very obvious. As the name indicates, it is a nishedha or a negation sutra. So anya sutraihi uktasya vishayasya vishishteshu sthaleshu yaihi sutraihi nishedha kriyate. Don't do this. Pratishedha kriyate. Tani pratishedha sutrani. So the vyakhya is कर्तव्यत्वेन उपदेशादेः निषेधः प्रतिषेधः. Remember, this kartavyattvena upadesha was the vyakhya for the vidhi sutra. Kartavyattvena upadeshaha vidhi. And there is adi word added at the end. So vidhi and others. So because as I mentioned in the previous class, vidhi sutra is the most important sutra among all the 6 types of sutras. So he says vidhi sutra and others. Kartavyattvena upadeshaha तथा च आदयः एतेषां सर्वेषां निषेधः. So the nishedha can be of a samnya, nishedha can be of a paribhasha, nishedha can be of a vidhi, a niyama, atidesha, even an adhikara, there is a nishedha possible. So the pratishedha, the negation of what is told, is the pratishedha sutram. Some simple examples. This is very simple category. So simple example, halantyam iti ekam samnya sutram asti. So first sutra of Laghu Siddhanta Kaumudi is Halantyam. Those of you who have studied little of Laghu Siddhanta Kaumudi are definitely aware of this. But you don't need to be aware for what I'm telling right now. So Halantyam iti Samnya Sutram. This Samnya Sutram gives a specific Samnya called Itta Samnya. Same as Anubandha, but it is a more formal grammatical term called Itta Samnya. And who gets this Itta Samnya? Sutra Pathe उपदेशः इत्युक्ते आदेशः आगमः प्रत्ययः. So any kind of upadesha, I have taught what is an upadesha. So आदेश रूपेण आगम रूपेण प्रत्यय रूपेण ये शब्दाः सूत्रपाठे उक्ताः सन्ति तेषाम् अन्तिमं व्यञ्जनं, the last व्यञ्जन of these adeshas, agamas, pratyayas, even dhatus becomes it by this sutram halantyam. So for example, if you take the pratyayana vul, it is a pratyaya. There is a l at the end. So it is that l will be called it or will be called anubandha. In the same way, you can apply this for all sorts of examples. So sutra पाठे आदेश आगम इत्यादि रूपेण शब्दानाम अंतिम हल वर्णस्य इत संज्ञा भवति. So this is a samnya sutram. And then for a specific type of pratyayas, this it samya has been negated by the immediate next sutra. So 133 halantyam gives that it samya. 134 na vibhaktau tusmaha says ye pratyayaha vibhakti samyakaha santi. So sup pratyayas are called vibhakti. The ting pratyayas are called vibhakti. So ये प्रत्ययाः विभक्ति सम्यकाः सन्ति तेषां विषये अन्तिम त वर्गस्य वर्णः अन्तिम सकारः अन्तिम मकारः इत् सम्यकः न भवति. So if you take an example of the ting pratyayas, you have tip, tas, jhi. So the first three are tip, tas, jhi. Out of this, tip is a vibhakti pratyaya. The last pakara becomes its samyaka by halantyam. But when you go to the second pratyaya, tas, tasa is also a vibhakti pratyaya, but there is a sakara at the end. And while halantyam tells that this may become an itsamyaka, the immediate next sutra says, na vibhaktau tusmaha. So for a vibhakti samyaka pratyaya, the sakara present at the end is not itsamyak. So a negation has been done. So a samya was told and a negation has been done. Similarly, another example, here there is a negation for a vidhi. षष्ठी बहुवचनस्य नाम इति प्रत्ययः अस्ति तत्र अंगस्य दीर्घः भवति. So nami is a sutram which causes a dirgha on the entity to which that nama is applied. So sadhu plus nam becomes sadhunam, pitrunam, ramanam, and so on. But specifically for the words tisru and chatasru, 3 and 4 in the feminine form, dirghaha na ishyate, ataha tadartham nishedha sutram krutamasti, na tisru chatasru. So again, a vidhi has been negated. Yet another example where a pratyaya vidhanam is being negated. So there is a sutram called abhidnya vachanel rutta. Now you don't need to know what this particular sutra means. All that this sutra is saying is that in a specific context which is being told by the word abhidnya vachana. So let us assume abhidnya vachana is some specific context. In that particular situation, in that particular context, the rut lakar, which is typically used with the bhavishyat kala, the rut lakar, which is so patishyati, patishyata, patishyanti, that's the rut lakar. It is typically used for the future tense, bhavishyat kala. But in this specific situation of abhidnya vachana, whatever it means, the rut lakar can also be used for bhutakala. So you will still say patishyati, but the meaning would be we read or something like that. So bhutakalasya nirdeshartham rut pratyayaha vidhiyate by the sutra abhidnya vachanel ruta. But then, if that particular sentence which you are speaking contains the word yada, specific word yada, then immediately this rut lakara cannot be used for bhutakala. So normally for the context of abhidnya vachana, bhutakala is acceptable. But if that statement itself contains the word yada, then you cannot use the rut lakar for the bhutakala even in the context of abhidnya vachana. So यदि वाक्ये यद इति शब्दः विद्यते तर्हि अयं लृट् प्रत्ययः भूतकालार्थं न इष्यते, अतः तस्य निषेधार्थं न यदि इति निषेधसूत्रं कृतम् अस्ति. अनेन प्रकारेण पूर्वम् उक्तस्य विषयस्य प्रतिषेधः निषेधः येन सूत्रेण क्रियते तद् निषेधसूत्रम्. In yesterday's class, I have been telling you analogies of the class and the teacher. So a similar analogy over here would be that the teacher can say all students go to library, but Devadatta should not go to library. So the first rule, all students should go to library, will be the vidhi, and the next rule, Devadatta should not go to the library, would be a nishedha of that vidhi. So that's all about the Pratishedha Sutra. I can take questions if there are any, only specific to Pratishedha Sutram, nothing else. But this was very clear. I think this was very easy. So assuming there are no questions, we can move on to the next one, the Nipatana Sutrani. Chandra Mauli Mahoday.
Okay. So the pratisheda and apavada are different words, or we can say both of them are negative. Negations.
Pratishedha and apavada or what?
Are similar. So apavada sutras are.
No, apavada is basically okay. Let me hear out the full question.
No, I've heard this term called apavada sutras. There's a rule and exceptions are apavadas.
Okay, so let me explain this. So let's take the example of this classroom. The teacher says all students go to the library. Devadatta should not go to the library. That's the pratishedha. Apavada would be all students go to the library. Devadatta should go to the music room. That's the apavada. So apavada is a positive assertion of something else. Nishedha or pratishedha is no other assertion. It is only non-assertion of what has already been told. So that's the difference between apavada and nishedha. Clear? Vidya Bhagini.
नमस्ते महोदय नियम निषेधयोः भेदः वर्तते परन्तु निषेधः अपि एकविधः नियमः एव वा
निषेधः एकविधः नियमः इति नास्ति पुनरेकवारं तदेव उत्तरं निषेधस्य विषये इदं कार्यं न कर्तव्यम् इत्येव उच्यते यत्र यत्र इदं कार्य see the three things we are talking about three separate things निषेधः इत्युक्ते इदं कार्यं न कर्तव्यम् नियमः इत्युक्ते इदं कार्यं केवलं विशिष्टस्थलेषु कर्तव्यम् अपवादः इत्युक्ते अन्यत् कार्यं कर्तव्यम् so these are the three things beyond that I think don't think about it that will cause more confusion in the mind
धन्यवादः
Chandramouli Mahadevan Mahoday, if you all still have question or you want to bring down your hand. Okay. Vijay Mahoday. I'm sorry, I cannot hear you. Vijay Mahoday. Okay. Hello. Okay, I think there's some microphone problem at your end. You can type the question in the chat and I can address that. That should be okay. So there are no more raised hands. So let's go to the next set of questions. The Nipatana Sutrani. What is a Nipatana Sutra? Siddha Prakriyasya Nirdeshaha Nipatanam. This is the Vyakhya that is given. Siddha, and you have to remember this. Siddha Prakriyasya Nirdeshaha Nipatanam. By the way, in yesterday's class, while giving the examples, I taught a term called Nipata. So I was giving examples of samnyas, if you remember in one of the slides in the yesterday's class. And one of the samnyas as an example was given as Nipata. That's completely different. What we are talking over here is Nipatana, which is a type of the sutra, whereas Nipata is a specific samnya used in Ashtadhyayi. So let's not mix up the two. So the Nipatana Sutras are the sutras which are very special in the sense they will give you a ready-made word and will tell you, don't worry about the Prakruti Pratyay Vibhaga over here. So Siddha Prakriyasya Nirdeshaha Nipatanam, a word which is ready-made given to you, the Prakriya is already. So it's like a ready-made food in the market. You go to the market, being ready to cook and eat that. You don't worry about how it is created. So that's exactly Nipatanam. Yeshu Sutreshu, there are sutras in Ashtadhyayi. Prakruti Pratyaya Vibhagam Vina Sakshat Siddhaha Shabdaha Eva Pathyate. A bunch of words. My favorite example is, I've not given it on the slide, but it is this Rajasuya. So Rajasuya, Surya, Mrushodya, Ruchya, Kupya, Krushta, Pacha, Avyathya. Ete Shabdaha Kyapi Nipatyante. Means what? I am giving you ready-made set of words called Rajasurya, Surya, Mrushodya, Ruchya, Kupya, Krushtapachya, and Avyathya. All these words are to be considered Kyapa Pratyayanta words, but you don't worry about how the Prakriya happens. Nipatyante. ready-made given to you. Coming to the example of our classroom, the teacher will say all students who got more than 70% marks go to the library, and Devadatta also should go to the library. So every student now starts looking at their mark sheet to find out whether they have got 70% marks or not. But Devadatta doesn't need to look at his mark list, because it is granted, it is given ready-made that Devadatta is going to go to the library. So this way, Prakruti Pratyay Vibhagam Vina Sakshat Siddhaha Shabdaha Eva Pathyate Tani Nipatana Sutrani. So a few examples are given on the slide. There is this sutram in 6181, Kshaya Jayau Shakyarthe. This sutra says that Kshetum Shakyam. Kshetum is a Tuman Pratyanta form of the Kshi Dhatu. Kshi Kshaye, to fade, to shrink, to reduce, to get destroyed. So something that is possible to get destroyed. Kshetum Shakyam. In this meaning, the word Kshaya with double yakara, Kshaya, is granted to you. In fact, this is what is used in the Akshaya Tritiya, which is an important day in the Vaishakha Masa. So Akshaya, the one where you collect something, say gold or say punya, it will never get reduced. So that's Akshaya. The reverse of that is this Kshaya, which means something that is possible to be reduced. Kshetum Shakyam. In this meaning, the word Kshaya is given to you, is there in the sutra. Kshaya Jayau Shakyarthe. And similarly, for the Ji Dhatu, to win, Jetum Shakyam, the one that can be conquered, is Jaya. So Kshaya and Jaya are ready-made words given to you by the sutra Kshaya Jayau Shakyarthe. Kshaya starts with the Kshi, Jaya starts with the Ji, but you don't need to worry about how the prakriya happens. The word is given to you. Another example. There is this particular sutram 5 to 14, Agavinaha. So this sutram again gives a ready-made word called Agavinaha. Who is Agavinaha? Saha Manushaha Yaha Kasmachit Dhanikat Runarupena Gauhu Gam Svikaroti. This is not acceptable in a grammar class. Or Gaha. So Saha Manushaha Yaha Kasmachit Dhanikat Runarupena Gam Svikaroti, accepts a cow as a on rent. But instead of paying him money as a rent, he says, I will offer you my services. I will act as your servant till the time cow stays with me. So, yavat sa gauhu tasmai dhanikaya na pratyarpyate, tavat tasya dhanikasya bhrutyarupena saha karyam karoti. He takes the cow, lends it from a dhanika, and while the cow is not returned, he himself acts as the servant of that dhanika. Such a person is called Agavina. The word is given to you. Don't worry about Prakruti Pratyay Vibhaga. Another example, very well-known word called Runa. The word Runa, which means debt, is given to you. Anyasmat svikrutam dhanam asmin arthe runamadhamaranye iti shabdena iti sutrena runa iti shabdaha nipatyate. The phrase that we use is nipatyate. Nipatanam bhavati iti ashayaha. And then bunch of words can be given in one sutra. So tishtadgu prabhuti nature. In this sutra, this is actually a gana. Tishtadgu ganaha atra nirdishtaha asti. Tishtadgu ganasya sarve shabdaha avyai samasena siddhaha jneyaha. So typically avyai samasa will be purva pada pradhana, purva padartha pradhana. But you don't worry about whether it is a purva padartha, uttar padartha, whether there is avyaya involved and so on. All these words are to be considered as derived by the avyayi bhava samasa. So in this way, siddha prakriyasya nirdeshaha nipatanam namna jnayate. Now one obvious question over here is, why give such words? I mean, why not give prakriyas for them? The answer for that is that, remember how a sutra should be. Alpaksharam asandigdham saravat vishvato mukham. a sutra should have wide applicability. So when Panini realizes that I need to give a bunch of sutras, sometimes it is one sutra, sometimes two sutras, sometimes three sutras, just for deriving one word. So for one word, I have to add three more sutras. For yet another word, I have to add three more sutras, and so on. So if you see this example, for deriving Rajasuya, I need to add two sutras. For Surya, two more sutras. Vrishodhya, two more sutras. So that's actually going to contradict that Alpaksharatvam. So this is a trade-off. In some cases, actually giving the words is a shorter approach than giving the sutras for deriving those words in such a case. And that's a judgment done by Panini when the sutras were written. You might not agree to it. So for example, you might say, well, for Kshaya, only one extra sutra is needed. For Jaya, only one extra sutra is needed. So that's your argument. But the judgment that was done by Panini by looking at the entire Sutra Patha that was in front of him, he decided that it is in the best interest of the Alpaksharatva to give these words ready-made rather than wasting sutras on their prakriya. So whatever is the reason, but these words are ready-made given. So it's, as I mentioned earlier, it's a pre-cooked meal ready to eat. Don't worry about how it is created. So that's the Nipatana. Now there is another interesting things about the Nipatana. I'll talk that and then I'll take some of the questions. So even if I said that Siddha Prakriyasya Nirdeshaha Nipatanam Namna Jnayate, but the reality accepted by Parampara is slightly different. So understand this carefully. Yadyapi Nipatanena, typing mistake, Nipatanena Shabdaha Siddhaha Shabdaha Siddhin Vina Eva Dattaha Asti. So the word is given by the Nipatana means what? You don't need to worry about the Siddhi of Kshaya or Siddhi of Rajasuya or Surya and so on. So Siddhin Vina Eva Dattaha Asti. Tathapi. What the Parampara tells us is that Nipatanena Siddhanam Shabdanam Api Yatha Shakyam Prakriya Lekhaniya. Write the prakriya. Obviously, you will not be able to write the full prakriya because otherwise there was no need to give that word as a nipatana. So write the prakriya. Prakriyayam yeshu sopaneshu kathinyam jayate. Ishtam parivartam kenapi sutrena na sambhavati. Tatra idam ityukte adesha ayam adeshaha no chet ayam lopaha no chet ayam agamaha, whatever is on that step. Idam nipatyate. So just that particular step should be nipatana rather than the entire word being nipatana. Therefore, here is an example. The word kshaya, which is actually ready-made given by kshaya jayu shakyarthe. But let's try to derive. So starting with the verb kshi, in the first step, you apply the yata pratyaya and there is a sutra for that. So you don't need any special handling. Then from the yata pratyaya, the ta is being removed. Again, there is a sutra for that lopa. You don't need to worry about it. In the next step, kshi becomes kshe, e becomes a. So that ikarasya ikaradesha, there is a sutra for that adesha, so you don't need to worry about it. And in the next step now, the ekara is converted to aya. So normal ayadi sandhi, but here there is no swara. If it would have been kshe plus a, it could have happened, the ayadi sandhi could have happened. But here there is no akara, so that ayadi sandhi is not possible. So this kshe cannot be converted to kshaya. So this is the place where we are stuck. And therefore, because we want to create kshaya over here, otherwise the kshaya with a double yakara cannot be derived. So we are forced to say that kshe to kshaya is a step that we need, but there is no sutra in Ashtadhyayi that will give this step. So we say that that particular ayadesha is given by nipatana. So kshaya jayau shakyarthe iti ayadeshasya nipatanam. So you don't say yata is a nipatanam, you don't say kshi to kshe is a nipatanam. You keep on doing the prakriya till you can do it. And in some or the other place you will get stuck. That is where you use that cheat sheet and you say this is a nipatana. So kshaya jayau shakyarthe iti ayadeshaha nipatyate. Kshaya plus ya becomes kshaya. So even though technically nobody stops you from saying that this word is directly given to you, The parampara says, or the way the tradition has always treated the Nipatana Sutras, as try to deal with them like the normal words where you start with the Prakruti Pratyaya and derive the Prakriya, and only where you are stuck. It could be one step, it could be 2 steps, 3 steps, and so on. But wherever you are stuck, use this particular Nipatana Sutra. And in light of this particular behavior, this particular observation, there is a very beautiful way in which the Vidhi Sutra and the Nipatana Sutra can be seen as two sides of the same coin. Understand this point. If you take the fundamental equation of Sanskrit grammar, Prakrutihi plus Pratyayaha is equal to Padam. And in light of this equation, if you ask what is a Vidhi Sutram, so a Vidhi Sutram is the one where Prakruti and Pratyaya is known, and the Vidhi Sutram will teach you Adeshas, Agamas, Lopas, and so on, so as to derive that Pada or the Pratyayanta Shabda. So the left hand side of that equation is known, and the right hand side is to be derived. That is the Vidhi Sutra. The Nipatana Sutra, on the other hand, is where the right hand side is given to you. So Kshaya is already told, and you have to guess the left hand side. So given the right hand side, guessing the left hand side is Nipatana. Given the left hand side, guessing the right hand side is the Vidhi Sutra. Very beautiful comparison. So yatra avayavaha nirdishyante, samudayaha anumiyate. The samudaya is the combination that's being guessed by applying Ashtadhyayi Sutras from Prakruti and Pratyaya, which is given to you. So, avayavaha nirdishyante, samudayaha anumiyate, saha vidhihi. And the reverse, yatra samudayaha shruyate, kshaya is given to you. Samudayaha shruyate, avayavaha cha anumiyante. The breakup kshaya plus ya has to be guessed because you want to derive kshaya. That is Nipatana. So this way, Vidhi and Nipatana are opposite sides of the same coin. That completes the discussion of Nipatana. If there are any questions, raise your hands. Meanwhile, there are a few questions on the chat. I can take them up. So the question was for the Pratishedha Sutra earlier. And the question was, will a Pratishedha Sutra will always associated with a certain base sutra? So obviously, that's what the definition says. Anyaihi sutraihi uktasya vishayasya pratishedhaha. So when you say don't do something, the obvious question is don't do what? So there will be a sutram, a base sutram will be there. Now whether that base sutram comes before the pratishedha or after the pratishedha, that's slightly debatable. Most of the times it will come before the pratishedha only, but then that's a different discussion altogether. But there will be a Pratishedha Sutra, there will be a base Sutra, a Samnya Sutra, a Vidhi Sutra, Niyama Sutra, whatever, and then there will be a Pratishedha on that. The second question, I think, is about this Nipatana Sutrani, and the question is, when this Prakriya is being written, can we not even apply Unadi Sutras for deriving these words? So most likely not. So for example, the reason why Panini says this is a Nipatana is because there is no sutram in Ashtadhyayi that will derive the Prakriya. And Unadi Sutras are the sutras that typically give Pratyayas rather than steps of the Prakriya. So there will be some sutras that will give Adesha, Agama and so on. But the crux of the Unadi Sutras is giving Pratyayas. So no additional Pratyaya is going to give you that particular form. So you have to somehow do the guesswork at a certain step, and that will be Nipatana. So I have answered all the questions on the chat. If there are any more questions, please raise your hand. Otherwise, we will go to the next type of sutras, the third type, that's the Vibhasha Sutras. Okay, let's move on. This is important, please pay attention. So what is Vibhasha? So the negation, the Pratishedha Sutra was a complete Nishedha. The Vibhasha Sutra is optional action of a sutra. So Samya, no chet Vidhihi, no chet Niyamaha, ityadinam vikalpena vidhanam. Optional application, and that option is to you, with you. So you can decide either to apply the sutra or not to apply the sutra. So Samya, Vidhihi, Niyamaha, ityadinam विकल्पेन विधानं यैः सूत्रैः भवति तानि विभाषा सूत्राणि. So the definition itself says vidyadinam vikalpa vidhanam vibhasha. And vikalpa is a choice in your hands. So it is not like a niyama sutra. Niyama sutra is restricting the domain, but it is not giving a choice in your hands. It is telling you for certain aspects. So for example, patis samasa eva, we saw yesterday. Standalone pati word will not get the ghi samnya, but say gajapati will get the ghi samnya. That's a decision already done by the niyama sutra. It's a restriction of the sutra. Whereas the vibhasha sutra gives you a choice in your hand. And typically in Ashtadhyayi, the Vibhasha Sutras are indicated with one of the three words. Panini uses the word called Va, which indicates option, or he uses the word called Vibhasha, which also indicates option, or he uses the word called Anyatarasyam, which also indicates option. So, multiple sutras for each of these words are seen. So, here is an example. Valiti. This sutra says that in the lit lakara, the chaksha dhatu is optionally converted to kya, which means that when you are doing the lit lakara prakriya of the chaksha dhatu, let's go to the website and see this chaksha dhatu. So when you are doing the lit lakara prakriya of the chaksha dhatu, you have an option of converting it to kya. If you convert, you will get this chakhyau form. If you don't convert, you will get this chakshau form. So the Valiti Sutram will give an optional kya adesha, giving rise to two different prakriyas. So at a particular step in the prakriya, a branching will happen. Choose the option and one branch. Don't choose the option and other branch. Another example, Va amshasoho. In front of when and shas pratyayas are present, the stri word will optionally get the iyang adesha. Vikalpena iyang adesha bhavati. So I don't want you to remember any of the sutras. Just observe that the word va is used to give an option over here. The next two sutras, the option is given by the word vibhasha. So vibhasha lunglrungoho. For the verb ing, some specific adesha happens for the lung lakara and the lung lakara. Vibhasha liyatehe. For the li verb, some specific adesha happens optionally. Similarly, for anyatarasyam, tirasaha anyatarasyam, liti anyatarasyam. Again, some kind of option. Either this happens or it does not happen. That kind of option is given by anyatarasyam. Now, one question that might get asked over here is that we are making so much fuss about the alpaksharatvam. Ardhamatra laghavena putrotsavam manyante vayyakaranaha. This is a question in one of the previous homeworks. A lot of you have already done it. So if you are making so much fuss about this alpaksharatvam, why not just use va everywhere? It's just probably a single akshara. Why use vibhasha or why use anyatarasyam, such a big word? Isn't it causing a problem on the alpaksharatvam? So the answer to this particular question is given in Paribhasha Shekhara as a paribhasha. The paribhasha says paryaya shabdanam laghava gaurava charcha nadriyate. So when it comes to synonyms, the laghava and gaurava discussion is not to be done. So that's the rule. Why Panini used va in some cases and vibhasha in some cases and anyatarasyam in some cases? It is his choice because alpaksharatvam is not to be measured based on the synonyms. Even if in place of anyatarasyam he would have written va, it would not have caused technically any kind of alpaksharatvam. Number of letters might have reduced, but the quality of alpaksharatvam would not have changed. So paryaya means synonyms, words with the same meaning. Paryaya shabdanam laghava gaurava charcha nadriyate. And the explanation is specifically to this particular case. Tatra tatra anyatarasyam vibhasha va iti sutra nirdesha jnapitamidam. So tatra mean in different places. Sometimes anyatarasyam is used, sometimes vibhasha is used, sometimes va is used. So Nagesha is actually asking a rhetorical question over here. Do you think that an acharya who designed a complex system of 4,000 sutras would be so not careless that sometimes he uses va, sometimes he uses vibhasha and anyatarasyam? Wouldn't he understand that he should use va everywhere to bring the alpaksharatvam? So the answer is paryaya shabdanam laghava gaurava charcha nadriyate. The laghava and gaurava is not to be discussed in case of synonyms. So it was not necessary for Panini to just use va. So he uses a variety. Another example is this visarjaniya. So visarjaniya is a word which is used in Ashtadhyayi as a synonym for visarga. So maybe visarga is actually lesser number of characters, but punarekvaram, same answer, पर्याय शब्दानां लाघव गौरव चर्चा न द्रियते. सो तत्र इत्युक्ते तत्र भिन्नेषु सूत्रेषु अन्यतरस्यां विभाषा तथा वा इति सूत्र निर्देशैः इदं ज्ञापितम्, इदं स्पष्टीकृतम् अस्ति. So this way, whenever it comes to the discussion of the synonyms, the Gaurava Laghava Charcha is not to be brought in picture. Therefore, kutrachit va, kutrachit vibhasha, kutrachit anyatarasyam is not an issue. Now there is a question over here. I probably don't understand this. The question says multiple pratyanta words can be derived. It's not multiple pratyaya. Purnimaji, you can actually explain this question.
Namaste Mohdaya. Tadeva yada this Vibhasha Sutra is used, so we'll get two or many words for the similar meaning, synonyms we get.
Correct.
That was the question.
Correct. So it may not be pratyaya vibhasha, it may be adesha vibhasha, agami vibhasha. So if the vibhasha is done on the adesha, in one branch of the prakriya, the adesha should be done, in other branch, adesha should not be done, and then two different forms will be obtained. So that is correct, you will get multiple forms. That's what I showed, Chakshu and so on the website I showed right now. Multiple forms are possible. No more questions? Purnimaji, do you have yet another question? Okay. Ratnakar Mahoday.
Namaste, Acharya. Is that audible, my voice?
Yeah.
It's a weird question. Is there any sutra for Pratisheda Sutra, Pratisheda Sutra?
So Pratisheda Sutra, so na of na, right?
Like a double negation.
Sutra of na or na, because there is no need to say na of na. He'll just directly give the original one, the vidhi. But what is there is, first he will give a sutra, then he will give a nishedha, and then he will give a vibhasha. So if you say this particular Nami Sutram, which says Angasya Dirghaha Bhavati, I just gave example, Sadhu Nam and so on. The immediate next Sutram is Na Tisru Chatusru. So for Tisru and Chatusru, the Dirgha is not there. And then he says Ubhayatha. In some cases, it is both. So sometimes there will be Dirgha and sometimes. So for the Nru word, for example, both will happen. So you can see sequence like Vidhi, Pratishedha and Vibhasha. But there is no Nishedha of a Nishedha that I mean, maybe there is one or two, I don't remember at the moment.
And another weird question, like wherever va is there, either it meant vibhasha, vibhasha. So in fact, wherever vibhasha was incorporated in the sutra, if an illogical person like me says va in that particular sutra, is that acceptable? I don't know whether my question is clear or not.
So are you saying that while reading the sutra Vibhasha lung lungoho, you will read va lung lungoho?
Is that okay if
I don't know. I mean, the sutra should be read as in the way they are written. So while explaining the meaning, you can say vikalpena bhavati, va bhavati, and so on. So if I ask you to write the meaning of the sutra Vibhasha lung lungoho, in your explanation, you can use the word Vibhasha, va, anyatarasam, they are all similar. But when you're reading the sutra, you should respect what the Acharya has written and just read it exactly the way Acharya has written.
And though I think this is a little ahead of the course, what is the easiest way to obtain the Rupa Siddhi. When we look at the steps of the Rupa Siddhi, what is that we have to look at first? Apart from Prakriti and Pratyaya and Sandhi Karya, what are the things that we have to see and then apply that particular sutra?
Oh, that's the whole course is about, like how to put adeshas, agamas, lopas, and so on. So you start with Prakriti Pratyaya and you learn all 4,000 sutras, and then you will learn how to apply all these things. So it's not like 1 day or 2 days. Even in our course, maybe 5 or 10% of that will be done. Okay.
Oh, that's thank you. Thank you.
Reshma Bhagini.
Namaste, Mohoday. Prashna, I have a question from the previous slide. There was one word particularly if the cow is rented. So is the same logic applicable if a land is rented or something? The same
So
name
no,
will be given?
this is specifically for the word cow. So Gavinaha, it's derived somehow from go. So
Okay.
basically this sutra is only related to cow, but on a different note, you don't need to worry about meaning of any sutra. The important point was to understand that this is a nipatana. That's all. Okay?
Okay. Yeah.
Sudhavalli Mahoday.
Mahoday.
Namaste.
Unadi Sutra and Fit Sutra are out of the scope of the Ashtadhyayi. That is the reference are not given in the Ashtadhyayi. Unadi Sutra and Fit Sutra. How they are Nipatam is ready-made word. How they are that is what is the difference between the Nipatam and Unadi Fit Sutra? I want a clarity.
Correct. Very good question. So if let's take a word like say Vayu, which is derivable by the Unadi Sutras. Now, if you only take the frame of reference of Ashtadhyayi, the Vayu is not derivable using Ashtadhyayi Sutras. And at the same time, Vayu is not even given as a Nipatana, only in the frame of Ashtadhyayi. So it means that purely inside the frame of Ashtadhyayi, a Vayu is an avyutpanna word. Avyutpanna means a word for which a Prakriti Pratyaya Vibhaga just doesn't exist. You don't know what is a dhatu and you don't know what is a pratyaya. On the other hand, a nipatana is one where even if the ready-made word is given and you need to do some kind of hand waving in some of the steps of the prakriya, still the remaining prakriya goes as per Panini's rules. You know what is the dhatu, you know what is the pratyaya, you know most of the steps in the prakriya. Only 1 or 2 steps have to be filled up using that Nipatana Sutra. Clear?
Dhanyavadah, Mahoday.
Any further questions? Agre gachhamaha. So a lot of things interesting things have to be covered for the Vibhasha Sutram. The crux of the class is now starting. Everything was just introduction till now. So understand this. Vibhasha Sutras are classified by the Shastra in 3 groups. Vibhasha Sutranam Trayah Bhedaha Shastre Kalpitaha Vartante. Prapta Vibhasha, Aprapta Vibhasha, and Ubhayatra Vibhasha. So Ubhayatra, as now you can see, it is a combination of Prapta and Aprapta. So let's first understand what is Prapta, what is Aprapta, and then I will say that combination will be called Ubhayatra. So Prapta Vibhasha, Aprapta, these names have to be remembered, their definitions have to be remembered. One full homework question is on these particular concepts. So Prapta Vibhasha, Aprapta Vibhasha, and Ubhaya Vibhasha. What is Prapta Vibhasha? Let us understand with the example of our classroom. Teacher says all boys go to library. So that's the first rule. And on the second rule, teacher says Devadatta may or may not go. Now see what is happening. When you read the first rule, all boys go to library. For Devadatta, that action of going to the library was already prapta. It was already available to him. Because Devadatta is a boy and all boys are to go to library, therefore that rule was already applicable, already prapta for Devadatta. And on the next step, when the teacher says Devadatta may or may not go, the rule which was already compulsorily prapta is now optionally negated. So that is prapta vibhasha. Now let me go and give the example of aprapta vibhasha so that you will understand it immediately in context. So now take the second example where the teacher says all girls should go to library, and then the teacher says Devadatta may or may not go. Now when the first statement is told all girls should go to library, the action of going to library was aprapta for Devadatta, because Devadatta is not a girl, so that rule was not applicable to him. And in the next step, an option was told to Devadatta, you may or may not go. So something that was aprapta earlier and is optionally told is aprapta vibhasha. Something that was compulsory earlier and is now optionally negated is called prapta vibhasha. So how to remember this? Read the first word. Praptam asit tasya vikalpaha kriyate. That is prapta vibhasha. Apraptam asit tasya vikalpaha kriyate. That is aprapta vibhasha. And the combination of the two is ubhayatra vibhasha. So same example. Teacher says all girls should go to library. And then in the next statement, the teacher says Sita and Devadatta may or may not go. Now from Sita's point of view, it is prapta vibhasha because Sita is a girl. From Devadatta's point of view, it is aprapta vibhasha. And the same rule is giving prapta vibhasha in one component, aprapta vibhasha in another component. So it is ubhayatra vibhasha. So ubhayatra vibhasha means one component of the sutra will act like a prapta vibhasha, other component will act like aprapta vibhasha. So understand these three examples. They survey, all boys should go and Devadatta may or may not go is prapta vibhasha. All girls should go and Devadatta may or may not go is aprapta vibhasha. All girls should go and Sita and Devadatta may or may not go is ubhayatra vibhasha. Once you understand this, all the next slides are going to be very easy to understand. So let's now actually move. What is prapta vibhasha? Purveda nityam prapte pakshikam nishedhatvam. Pakshika is optional. Pakshikam nishedhatvam prapta vibhashatvam. Yatra adau केनचित् सूत्रेण कश्चन विधिः नित्यरूपेण उच्यते तथा च तदनन्तरम् अग्रिमसूत्रेण तस्य विधेः विशिष्टस्थलेषु वैकल्पिकः निषेधः क्रियते. देवदत्त may or may not go. तत्र तत् विकल्प विधायकं सूत्रं प्राप्त विभाषा अस्ति इति उच्यते. सो प्राप्तस्य विषये विभाषा पूर्वेण नित्यं प्राप्ते इदानीं पाक्षिकः निषेधः क्रियते इदानीं विकल्पेन एव प्राप्तिः उच्यते इति आशयः. So here is an example. There is a sutram in 1.4 called Tirontardhau. This sutra says the word tiras should get the gati samya. So there is a specific samya called gati which is given to the word tiras. But then there is another sutram immediately after that which says that when this tiras word comes in contact with the kru dhatu, so tiras karoti and so on, tiras plus kru, then this gati samya is optional. So earlier when only tiras was there nityam prapte, idanim kru dhatoho yoge vikalpyate. So prapte sati vikalpaha prapta vibhasha. Another example, there is a sutram in 3.1 which says, don't worry about the sutra, but it says yeshu dhatushu upadhayam. Upadha is the second last letter. So antam and upadha. So upadhayam rukaraha vidyate. Any dhatu like vrita, for example, there is a upadha rukara. For such dhatus, there is a kyapa pratyaya which is told. But for the mruja verb, now mruja is also upadha rukara, but for mruja word, there is a kyap pratyaya which is only optionally to be told. So mrujehe vibhasha iti sutram nirmitam. So again, purvena nityam uktaha pratyayah idanim vikalpyate, that is prapta vibhasha. Let's reverse the arguments. Purvena naiva prapte idanim pakshikatvam vidhanam. All girls should go and Devadatta may go. So Purvena naiva prapte idanim pakshikatvam vidhanam aprapta vibhashatvam. Yatra adau kenapi sutreण अनुक्तः विधिः विशिष्टस्थलेषु वैकल्पिकरूपेण उच्यते तत्र अप्राप्त विभाषा अप्राप्तम आसीत इदानीं विभाषया उच्यते. सो अप्राप्तस्य विषये विभाषा इति अप्राप्त विभाषा. पूर्वेण अप्राप्ते इदानीं पाक्षिकं विधानं क्रियते विकल्पेन प्राप्तिः उच्यते इति अर्थः. What is an example? Example is gang liti. Understand this. Multiple examples are there. I'm just giving two over here. So gang liti sutra says that for the ing verb, ing as a verb, in the lit lakara there is a gang adesha. So when you want to do the lit lakara prakriya of the ing verb, ing gets converted to this adesha called gang. Now what is happening? The adesha is told for lit lakara. Is there a lung lakara in discussion? No. Is there a rung lakara in the discussion? No. So for lung and rung lakara, such a adesha is not applicable. But then immediate next sutra says vibhasha lung lungoho. Lung lakarasya vishaye api idam ayam gang adeshah vikalpena vidhiyate. So purvena apraptaha vidhi atra vikalpyate iyam aprapta vibhasha. Apraptasya vishaye vibhasha. Another example. Meenati meenoti dingam lyapicha is a sutram. This sutra gives akaradesha on the verbs like me, and di. For these three verbs, if there is a truch pratyaya in front, akaradesha happens. So me plus trucha, akaradesha on me will happen. Similarly for hasva me and di. Now this akaradesha is only given for three verbs me, and di. It is not given for the verb called li. So for the verb li, when the next sutram vibhasha liyatehe gives an optional akaradesha, purvena apraptaha vidhihi yatra vikalpyate, this is aprapta vibhasha. So that is aprapta, purvam apraptaha idanim vikalpyate. And the third vibhasha is ubhayatra vibhasha. Both the things, some component is told compulsorily earlier that has been optionally blocked. Some component which was never told is now optionally being told. So yatra ekasmin eva sutre ekaha amshaha prapta vibhashayaha asti aparaha aprapta vibhashayaha amshaha tatra tena sutrena ukta vibhasha ubhayatra vibhasha iti svikriyate. उभय प्रकारस्य विभाषा इति उभयत्र विभाषा. नित्यं प्राप्तस्य कुत्रचित् पाक्षिकः निषेधः, अप्राप्तस्य च पाक्षिकः विकल्पः एकेन एव सूत्रेण उच्यते इति आशयः. So the same example that we took earlier for the rukaropadha verbs, verbs which have a rukara in the upadha, the kyap pratyaya was told. Remember, for that mruja verb, we took the same example earlier. So, rudhupada chaklupichute. So, for rukaropada verbs, the kyap pratyaya is told. So, let's take the same example. For the rukaropada verbs, kyap pratyaya is told. Now, there is a next sutram called vibhasha kruvrushoho. For the kru verb and for the vrusha verb, that kyap is optional. Now look at each case. What is happening for the kru verb? It was never rukaropadha. Like vrusha, it was never rukaropadha. So the previous sutram rudhupada chaklipichutehe was never applicable. So kru dhatoho upadha rukarha naiva vidyate. Atah kru dhatoho vishe purvena apraptaha vidhi idanim uktaha asti. So that is the aprapta vibhasha component. For the vrusha, there is upadha rukara, so compulsory kyap was told, which is now made optional. So vrusha dhatoho vishaye purva sutrena nitye kyap praptaye prapte idanim saha vikalpyate. So this is prapta vibhasha. Etadrisham ekasmin eva sutre kaschan amshaha aprapta vibhasham darshayati कश्चन अंशः प्राप्तविभाषां दर्शयति अनेन सूत्रेण उक्ता विभाषा उभयविभाषा अस्ति उभयत्र विभाषा the reason why I have written ubhaya vibhasha is I have seen the word ubhaya vibhasha in multiple places, but I cannot remember where. And these days when I see commentaries, I always see ubhayatra vibhasha. So maybe I learned incorrectly or no, I don't know. But take this word as ubhayatra vibhasha rather than ubhaya vibhasha. So ekasmin eva sutre kaschan amshah aprapta vibhasham darshayati kaschan amshah prapta vibhasham darshayati तत्र तेन सूत्रेण उक्ता विभाषा उभयत्र विभाषा अस्ति इति उच्यते. Any questions so far? So basically this concept of prapta vibhasha, aprapta vibhasha and ubhayatra vibhasha is extremely crucial. We are going to require it in multiple places in this course. So take your time to understand it. If there are any questions, you can ask them right now. सविता भगिनी.
नमस्कारं महोदय. प्राप्तविभाषा इत्युक्ते निषेधः एव.
निषेध पूर्वेण नित्यं प्राप्ते पाक्षिकः निषेधः.
निषेधः. ओके, तदेव.
पूर्वेण नित्यं प्राप्ते पाक्षिकत्वं निषेधत्वं. गीता भगिनी.
Mohodaya, I really didn't understand this ubhayatra in the, I mean, like, udaharanam. Mohodaya, go to the slide. So, first sutra says, upadha word is ru varna, then kya pratyaya will be applied.
Correct.
Right? This kru and vrish both are comes under the same.
Kru, the last letter is ru, not upadha. Upadha means second last.
Oh, yeah, got it. Yeah, now I understood. Asked. Dhanyavad.
Any further questions? Okay, agre gacchamaha. Still the work of the vibhasha is not done. Still there is something else for the vibhasha. Now, as I mentioned that all vibhashas in Ashtadhyayi will be classified into one of these three categories. Either it is a prapta vibhasha, or it is aprapta vibhasha, or it is ubhayatra vibhasha. Obviously, because you see how that vibhasha is being told. Is it optionally telling a vidhi that was already told? Then it is prapta vibhasha. Is it optionally telling a vidhi that was not told? Then it is aprapta vibhasha. And if it is doing both the things, it is ubhayatra vibhasha. Now, other than this classification, there is yet another term used for indicating some types of vibhashas. This is very important. Vibhasha sutranam anyaha bhedaha vyavasthita vibhasha. So, vyavasthita vibhasha is a separate category. It doesn't come in prapta, aprapta and ubhaya. So, even if a certain vibhasha is a vyavasthita vibhasha, it will still be one of the prapta, aprapta, ubhayatra. That's given. Like in the varnas, we had kalakruta bhedaha separate and swarakruta bhedaha separate and so on. Like that, the prapta, aprapta, ubhayatra are separate bhedas, and vyavasthita, there is no other bheda. There is nothing called avyavasthita or anything. Just a small group of vibhashas is called vyavasthita vibhashas. What is vyavasthita vibhasha? Very peculiar. Understand this. So, vyavasthita vibhasha is a vibhasha. So, there will be two options. But technically, it is not a choice given to the user. The choice has been predetermined by the commentators, by Panini or by Bhashyakara. So, sa vibhasha yatra dvau vikalpau vidyete. The option is there. Parantu kasyam prakriyayam kaha vikalpaha prayoktavyah iti acharyaihi शिष्टैः पूर्वम एव निर्धारितम अस्ति. So technically it is like two sutras. In one case apply this, in other case apply this. But instead of giving two sutras, a vibhasha has been told. So very unique or peculiar type of vibhasha. It's a choice without a choice. So atra vaktuh ichham anusrutya vikalpasya prayogaha na bhavati. So the definition says Lakshanusarena prayukta pravrutta vibhasha. Laksha means the final word. If you want to derive a certain final word, then use this kind of path. If you want to derive a certain other final word, use the other kind of path. So lakshanusarena pravritta vibhasha or prayogasya anukulam vyavastha. Vyavastha means a system, arrangement. So a certain system has to be set. That's why a vyavastha, that's why a vibhasha is done. That's why it's called vyavasthita vibhasha. Example will be given by which it will become more clear. So prayoganukula vyavastham nirdharayitum prayukta vibhasha vyavasthita vibhasha. So coming back to our example of the classroom, the teacher first says all students may go to the library. So this is a general vibhasha. All students may go to the library. But technically what is happening is that the students for whom the parents have come for picking them up, they are not going to the library, they are going home with their parents. For students whose parents have not come, they are going to the library. So even if technically an option is given, for each individual student, there is no option. If the parent is there, the parent is not going to wait, so he goes with the parent. If the parent is not there, he goes to the library. So in this way, lakshanusarena prayoga anukula vyavastham nirdharayitum prayukta vibhasha vyavasthita vibhasha asti. So here is an example. There is a sutram in 3.1 which says vibhasha graha. Graha, the ninth gana dhatu, grinhati. So graha iti dhatoho vikalpena na iti pratyayah bhavati. So this sutra says give an optional na pratyaya to the graha dhatu. Now before we go ahead, let me explain. This is aprapta vibhasha because na was not told earlier. Earlier ach was told in one of the previous sutras, and now na is being newly told. So apraptasya vikalpaha. So technically this is aprapta vibhasha, but that's the previous category. We keep that aside. Here it is vyavasthita vibhasha. What this means is that even though on the face of it you have two options, na and acha, but still when to use na and when to use acha is already told by the shishtas, is already told by the commentaries. So yadyapi anena sutrena dvayoho pratyyayoho vikalpena vidhanam kriyate tathapi ayam साक्षात् विकल्पः नास्ति अपितु ण प्रत्ययः कदा अच् प्रत्ययः च कदा प्रयोक्तव्यः इति व्याख्यानेषु निर्णीतं वर्तते. So the vyakyanas say that if you want to derive a word which means shark, मीन विशेषः शार्क इत्यस्मिन् अर्थे यदि शब्दस्य निर्माणं करणीयं तर्हि ग्रह इति धातोः ण इति प्रत्ययः प्रयोक्तव्यः. सो जले वेगम गृह्णाति, the one who takes a speed in the ocean or in the water. Now many things can take speed, but this is specifically, so you can say it is a yoga rudha word. It has a vyutpatti but only used in a certain context. So jale vegam gृह्णाति अस्मिन् अर्थे मीन विशेषस्य निर्देशार्थं यदि शब्दस्य निर्माणं करणीयं तर्हि ण इति प्रत्ययः प्रयोक्तव्यः. ग्रह प्लस ण becomes ग्राह, which means जलचरः. On the other hand, akashe gatim gृह्णाति, the one that takes speed in the sky. So akashastha pindaha, a planetary object in the sky. अस्मिन् अर्थे यदि शब्द निर्माणं करणीयं तर्हि अच् प्रत्ययः प्रयोक्तव्यः. ग्रह प्लस अच् becomes ग्रह. Full hakara is there. So if you add न, it will become grah. If you add a, it will become grah. Technically, it's an option, but it's an option without a real choice. So if you want to represent an entity that moves fast in the sea, namely shark, you use the na pratyaya. Graha plus na becomes graha. If you want to indicate an entity that moves fast in the space, that is planet, use the ach pratyaya. Graha plus ach is graha. Anena prakarena vyavastham laksha. Laksha is the final word. Are you interested in deriving shark? or a planetary object. If it is shark, that laksha can only be derived using na. If it is a planetary object, that laksha can only be derived using ach. So that way, lakshyانुसारेण प्रवृत्ता विभाषा प्रयोगानुकूल व्यवस्थां निर्धारयितुं प्रयुक्ता विभाषा व्यवस्थित विभाषा इति अस्ति. And as I mentioned earlier, let me also remind, व्यवस्थित विभाषा स्वयं अपि प्राप्त विभाषा अप्राप्त विभाषा उभय विभाषा एतेषु एकस्मिन् भेदे अवश्यं परिगण्यते. एतेषु एकस्मिन् भेदे अवश्यं परिगण्यते. अतः विभाषाग्रहः इति सूत्रेण ग्रहधातोः पूर्वम् अनुक्तः ण प्रत्ययः इदानीम् उच्यते. अतः इदम् अप्राप्तस्य विषये विभाषा. सो अप्राप्त विभाषा सूत्रम् अपि अवश्यम् एव अस्ति. So that's where we conclude or come to the end of today's class. So this way, in the previous class, we saw 6 important bhedas: samya, paribhasha, niyama, vidhi, atidesha, adhikara. In today's class, we saw 3 other important bhedas: the vibhasha, pratishedha, and nipatana. And out of these 9 bhedas, who is the central? It is vidhi sutram. Everybody works for the vidhi sutram. Samya is used in Vidhi Sutram. Paribhasha is used to interpret a Vidhi Sutram. Niyama is used to restrict a Vidhi Sutram. Obviously, Niyama can be used for Samya Sutram as well, but the crux of Ashtadhyayi is this Vidhi Sutram. Atidesha expands a Vidhi Sutram. Vibhasha gives an option on the Vidhi Sutram. Adhikara adds the words on the Vidhi Sutram. Pradishedha gives Nishedha of the Vidhi Sutram. And Nipatana gives a directly made word which could have been done by a Vidhi Sutram. So this way, Sarveshu Prabhedeshu Mukhyatamah Prabhedaha Vidhi Sutram iti asti. And that is the reason why after the next week, so next week I still have to cover some basics, but after that, in the last 2 classes of this module, class number 19 and 20, I am only going to focus on the Vidhi Sutras, and we are going to learn many more aspects about Vidhi Sutras in details before we actually start studying the very first sutra of Ashtadhyayi. So a lot of background for Vidhi Sutras is still pending. Today, I just introduced you. I'm going to reuse this picture in that class number 19 and 20, where we will remind ourselves that all these are helpers of the Vidhi Sutra, and then Vidhi Sutras, further discussion associated with them will be taken up. So that's where we conclude today's class. Here is the homework. Sankshepena uttarata. So 5 simple questions. पर्याय शब्दानां लाघव गौरव चर्चा नाद्रियते अर्थम स्पष्टीकुरुत किम नाम निपातनम एकम उदाहरणम दत्त. 5 to 6 lines, don't write pages. किम नाम व्यवस्थित विभाषा. देन राज सूर्य इति निपातन सूत्रम अस्ति. द्वितीयाध्यायस्य द्वितीयपादस्य किम सूत्रम उभयत्र विभाषा अस्ति. So look at that. Second question is actually interesting. 10 sutras are given. All these are Vibhasha sutras. Look in the commentary, read. I mean, I don't expect you to understand commentary, but at least now you should understand how to find the words called Prapta Vibhasha, Aprapta Vibhasha, Ubhayatra Vibhasha. So look at the commentaries of these sutras and classify these sutras in 3 groups: Prapta Vibhasha, Aprapta Vibhasha, and Ubhayatra Vibhasha. So 10 sutras are there, classified into 3 groups. And in addition, for each of the sutra, tell whether it is a Vyavasthita Vibhasha or not. So irrespective of which group it goes, it might or might not be Vyavasthita Vibhasha. So look at the commentary. The commentary will say you do not have to understand anything. For these sutras, you do not need to know the meaning of the sutra. You do not need to know anything. Just look at the commentary, and there are also only 3 commentaries. You can either look at my commentary, or you can look at Kashika, or you can look at Kaumudi. In one of these 3 commentaries, you will find. So for example, let's go to this Rukro Ranyatarasyam, the first sutra over here. If you go to Rukro Ranyatarasyam, and if you see my commentary, Ubhayatra Vibhasha Yam, so immediately an answer will be given to you. Similarly, somewhere over here in one of the commentaries, now it's not there in Siddhanta Kaumudi and Kashika, but this is there in Maha, is there at the end. So Prapta Vikalpatvad and Aprapta Vikalpatvad. So he's talking about Prapta and he's talking about Aprapta. So that's Ubhayatra. But still, this kind of analysis is also not needed. The word either prapta vibhasha or aprapta vibhasha or ubhayatra vibhasha will be written in one of the commentaries. Just read that and pick up the answer. So that's all today's class, and then some samshaya nivaranam, and then I want to spend a few minutes for discussing some logic about the homework as well. Okay, Ratnakar Mahodaya.
No, Acharya, it's not exactly about the class. It's some of the questions in the homework I'm really unable to understand.
I'll talk
And
about the
I'm
homework
not.
in 5 minutes.
Huh.
I'm going to talk about the homework. Okay, just give me 5. Okay. So before that, some samshaya nivaranam related to yesterday's and previous classes, some discussions on WhatsApp. So swaraihi sah dhatu nirdeshaha and ekashrutihi. So there has been some confusion on the group. I saw some questions. They have been answered, but let me give some additional information as well. So first of all, ekashrutihi means what? Udatta, anudatta and swarita distinction is not seen. Obviously, some swara will be pronounced. It will be either all udatta or all anudatta or all swarita or something in between. So some swara will be pronounced, but it is ekashruti, single monotonous tone. So ekashrutihi ityukte udatta anudattatvam nasti. Now, when it comes to the dhatu patha, I have added this on one of the slides in class 12. For the first 9 ganas, you see the swaras. So all the verbs of the 9 ganas, first 9 ganas are indicated using swaras. The verbs of the churadi gana are indicated without swaras. So ekashruti. Now why this difference? Why not indicate everything with the swaras? So the answer is that this particular swaras that are used in the dhatu, by swara I don't mean ach letters, I mean udatta, anudatta, swarita. So these swaras that are used in the dhatus have 2 purposes. The details are given. This is a slide from class number 12. You can look at the slide, but in general, the udatta, anudatta markings on the dhatus serve 2 purposes. One, they will indicate the parasmai pada, atmane pada and ubhaya pada property. And second, they will indicate whether the dhatu is set or unit. So anytime you look at the dhatu and you look at the swaras in the dhatu, by using the logic that is given on the slide over here, you will be able to tell whether the dhatu is parasmaipadi, ubhayapadi, atmanepadi, and whether the dhatu is set or unit. Now, when it comes to the 10th gana dhatus, there is a sutra in Ashtadhyayi which says that all 10 gana dhatus are by default ubhayapadi. And also, all 10th gana dhatus are by default set. So, which means that there is no swara needed to indicate the pada, because it's already told they are ubhayapadi. And no swara needed to indicate set or anit, because it is already told that they are set. Therefore, the whole purpose of adding a udatta, anudatta swara for the verbs of 10th gana is all destroyed. And therefore, the verbs of 10th gana are in ekashruti. Now, some dhatu pathas might mention them as saswara as well, but that saswara will still match the swaritatva and the udattatva. So, there is no specific need, and the books explicitly say that the verbs of 10th gana are written in ekashruti. So, that's about the swarai saha dhatu nirdesha. Then there was a question about atmanepada and ngakara as an anubandha. So, again, this relates to this particular slide that I was discussing. Ngakara in a dhatu, when it is an anubandha, it will indicate atmanepada. But only ngakara as an anubandha is not a necessary criteria for becoming atmanepada. There are multiple ways a dhatu might become atmanepadi. So for example, based on sutras, based on the swaras like explained over here, the dhatu might become atmanepadi. Or based on that ngakara, the dhatu might become atmanepadi. Or there might be a specific sutra in Ashtadhyayi that will make the dhatu atmanepadi. So there are multiple ways by which the dhatu may become atmanepadi. Ngakara is only one possibility. So just because the ngakara is not there in the dhatu doesn't disqualify it from being atmanepada. Reverse is true. So if there is ngakara, it will definitely be atmanepada. That's there. But even if there is no ngakara, other criteria might get satisfied and the dhatu might become atmanepadi. The third one, which somebody told me earlier today, this particular word which is written on the slide over here, I have been always pronouncing this word incorrectly as a fit with a f, the Farsi f, whereas there is no such f in Sanskrit. I have mentioned this earlier that there is always a p. The lips should close. Pa, pa, ba, bha, ma. There is a p. So phalam patati. So I have always been using p, the correct one, everywhere, except for this particular word. By some habit or something, I have been speaking fit, maybe impact of English, FIT, fit. So that's wrong pronunciation. So thanks to that gentleman for correcting me. From today onwards, I'll make a cautious attempt of pronouncing it as pit with closed lips. So that, and if you have learned that incorrect pronunciation inadvertently from me, you also should correct yourself and you should pronounce this as pit. Every p in Sanskrit has to be pronounced purely with oshthas by closing them together, pit, like that. So that's about the samshaya nivaranam. If there are any subject related questions at the moment, I can take them up. If not, I want to spend a few minutes about homework. Okay, no subject related questions. So let's discuss a few things about the homework. This is quite serious. I have been grading a lot of homeworks. So mostly homeworks number 1 to 5 and homeworks number 11 onwards are all graded. Homework number 6 is graded for half of the class. It's still pending for some 20 people. So for 20, 25 people is done, for 20 people is pending. And 7, 8, 9, 10, I have not yet looked. I will look at some point in time. But what I have observed, one basic thing or multiple things, that common pattern across the homeworks is that people are eager to show off their knowledge. Please do not do that. Do not write extra things in the homework. Only write what is asked. If I have asked you to write ekavakyena uttarata, do not write 2 sentences. Or maybe 2 sentences, okay, but do not write 5 sentences. Homework is not a place to show how much you have learned. It is a place to actually show what has been asked and you know it. So do not write unnecessarily long answers. Ekavakyena uttarata is 1 line. Basically, questions are of 3 types. Ekavakyena uttarata is 1 line. Sankshepena uttarata, 5, 6, 7 lines, which also includes shlokasya anvayam, artham, tatparyam, likhata, and so on. So for over here, vyakhyani drishtva adhodattani sutrani prapta vibhasha, aprapta vibhasha, ubhayatra vibhasha, simply write prapta, aprapta, ubhayatra. Do not give me meanings of sutras. Do not quote the line of Kashika, nothing. I already know all these things. I am trying to find out whether you understand what has been asked. So do not write unnecessarily long answers. More importantly, you do not need to do any research outside the class notes, outside the class recordings, outside the Ashtadhyayi website, and outside whatever you have already learned in Shiksha, Kovida, Gita Pravesha, and so on. So I agree that some homework questions cannot be directly answered from the material that is taught in the class. That is the design of this course. That is how the homeworks are designed. So for example, if you go to Paribhashendu Shekhara, there is one question that asks you to explain the meaning of Ardhamatra Laghavena Putrotsavam Manyante Vayyakaranaha. So the question says, what is the last Paribhasha of Paribhashendu Shekhara? Explain it. Now, I am not teaching Paribhashendu Shekhara. I have not taught you this particular slide, and I don't expect you to understand or even read what is written over here. I don't expect you to do any kind of external research. Use your basic sentence construction or interpretation logic that you have learned in whatever Gita Pravesha, Gita Sopanam, Kovida, Shiksha, and so on. So if you randomly see this line in, say, some text, Ardhamatra Laghavena Vayyakaranaha Putrotsavam Manyante, what will you understand? That's all that I'm asking over here. So logic, fundamental logic is obviously expected. Beyond that, no external references. I mean, there is some Dvivarnani Sandhyaksharani. There's some question. Now, I don't remember in which homework was there, but there is this Paniniya Shiksha Buddha Patha. There is Sandhyaksharani. Dvivarnani Sandhyaksharani. I have explained, I have asked, give the meaning of this. And there are some homeworks where tables have been drawn. Some A and A plus E is equal to A and so on. From where do you get all these tables? And then somebody showed me that some CBSE book has those tables and these have been copied. Please don't go. I mean, you're most welcome to read whatever you want. More you read, your knowledge is going to increase. But don't use that knowledge, don't show that knowledge in your homework. Just do what is written. So Dvivarnani Sandhyaksharani, all that I'm expecting is the meaning of this particular sutram in the way you have understood it. So that's it. So you do not need any extra research out of these things. And as I've always mentioned, people are also talking on the group, some kind of detective thinking, some kind of Sherlock Holmes thinking, that is okay. Even if you're able to answer 17 questions out of 20, 18 questions out of 20, that's perfectly fine. Another mistake that a lot of people are doing, please read the question carefully and answer only what is asked. Some homeworks, it's not answered what is asked, some additional logic has been told. I cannot give you marks like that. So please read the questions carefully and only answer what is asked. In general, if you follow these guidelines, every homework is doable in 1 to 1.5 hours, maximum 2 hours. If you are taking 4 hours for the homework, something is going wrong somewhere. How to get rid of that much time? You can use additional time for note taking separately. Rewatch the videos, think. So look at the homework question. In some homework questions, some thinking is needed. So read the homework questions and think about them in the background while you're cooking, driving, or relaxing, watching TV. Keep on thinking about these questions in the background. But when you sit for doing the homework, try to do it in one shot without spending more than 2 hours for the homework. Another important thing, for every homework, detailed grading is done. Every time I cut a mark, I tell you why the mark is cut. So please look at the graded homework after it is written. Detailed comments are available whenever the marks are cut. One last point, whenever the homework is returned to you and you have not got 20 out of 20, you are most welcome to do the corrections, but please do not resubmit the homework. I already have so many homeworks to correct. I don't want to recheck everybody's homework again and again. So for some homeworks, I explicitly write a remark, redo or resubmit and so on. If there is a remark of resubmitting, you can resubmit. But if there is no remark of resubmitting, just do the corrections at your own end. Then there is another question, it's asked over here. Is if there is a direct answer or an example quoted on the slide, can I quote the same example? Yes, unless it is explicitly told, Nutanam udaharanam likhata or swasya vakyam rachayata, you can quote whatever is there on the slide. But if the question says a swasya vakyam rachayata, there are some students are explicitly told swasya vakyam rachayata and sentence or phrases from Bhagavad Gita and Vishnu Sahasranam have been copied. So they are not your own creations. So Swavakyam Rachayata means your own sentence has to be created, not the one from any stotras or panchatantra or anything like that. And there is a question over here, can I copy the definitions directly from the slide? So I don't actually understand this question, but definitions are always to be copied from the slide. So when I ask you what is, say for example, let's go over here, what is Vibhasha? Give the definition of Vibhasha. You must say Vidyadinam Vikalpa Vidhanam Vibhasha. Don't add a word and don't remove a word. So specifically when it comes to the technical definitions, you don't have a choice, but you have to copy them from the website. From the slide deck. When there is a question about the examples, you can copy them from the slide deck or you can use your own ones. So that's about the homework. Now there was a question earlier asked which says some homework questions are difficult or I don't know how to find. Agreed, and that's the process of learning. Remember the very first class, Acharyat Padamadatte. Only 25% you are going to learn from the slide deck. See, to be honest, I don't believe in giving a homework that Gangliti Sutram Kim Asti is directly given over here. Minati Minoti iti Kidrusham Asti or Asmin Shabde Kaha Anubandha and so on. These trivial questions, you are already probably expert in that. I don't believe that these questions will help you learn new things. So Acharyat Padamadatte Padam Shishya Swamedhaya. That Swamedha I want to see. And then Padam Sabrahmacharibhyaha. So if there is some difficulty, discuss on the group. I think there was some initiative taken earlier where people used to come together and have homework discussion sessions. I don't know whether after 1 or 2 classes it's stopped or it's continuing, but continue that. You learn from each other and answer the homework questions in whatever way you want. Okay, one last point and then I'll stop. This is very important about the eligibility of sitting in the class and homework deadlines. This is non-negotiable. Homeworks 1 to 14, all the homeworks must be submitted before this financial year ends, before 31st March. So 31st March is the strong and non-negotiable deadline for homeworks 1 to 14. If you are going to travel, if you are not available, if you don't have computer available and so on, you have 15 days, plan accordingly. You can submit all homeworks today itself, tomorrow itself. So 14th homework was given in the last class. I'm not counting today's and yesterday's class. Only till the previous class, homeworks 1 to 14 must be submitted before 31st March. There is not a single exception will be given. Plan your submissions accordingly on the evening of night of 31st March or on the 1st April, and this is not April Fool, but on the 1st April, I will silently remove people from the group and from the class, and I will change the Zoom link so that you cannot join. But I don't want people who are not committed to this course in this class. So please submit the homework. I have been very lenient in giving deadlines and all that. So please submit all the homeworks before 31st March. Not just that, you cannot scribble random things. You must get 70% of the above. Everybody has already got. Everybody is probably 80% of the above. So this is not a concern. But if you just randomly scribble and get 0 marks, your percentage will go down. So your average score for the first 14 homeworks must be double, must be. So it's doubly enforced. Must be 70% or above for you to continue in this class. Please remember, I'm putting so much efforts in this course. They have to be reciprocated from your side. Only then this course will eventually become success. So samapayamaha. If there are any questions or comments, you can raise your hands. There's a question over here which says in homeworks 7 to 10, a few questions I have not understood. I got better understanding now. Can I resubmit? So if your score is very low, you resubmit. Anything more than 15, you really don't need to resubmit. But if in one of case you resubmit, I'll take a look. Then there is, so Vijay Mahoday, I see in my homework submission, it is written as missing, but the attachment is there. This is a common issue and you just don't have to attach. There is a submit button that you have to click. So I can see your homework document, but it still says missing because you have not explicitly clicked the submit button. Try it out. If not, I will mark it from my side. So I have seen your assignment. I mean, I have not checked, not graded, but I see that the assignment is there. Try to mark the submit button and it should be delivered. Homework number 7, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 are not graded. Homework number, somebody is asking what all have been graded. So 1 to 5 are graded. 11 onwards are all graded. 6 to 10. 6 is also partially graded for some people. I'll finish the grading in next 10 days or so. Sudhavalli Mahoday.
Namaste, Mahoday. Yesterday, Dhatu filters you told to.
Yes,
that
so
he
good
will-
question. So the reason I'm not telling Dhatu filters right now is after, I'm sorry, I promised this, but my plan has changed. So after class number 20, today we are having class number 16. So after the second module is over, after the class number 20 is over, I want, before starting class number 21, I want to take one full class on showing you how to use all features of Ashtadhyayi. So how to use the Sutra Patha, how to use the Dhatu Patha and so on. So at that time, I think lot of things will be covered. Dhatu filters will definitely be covered at that time. Because yesterday I explained Ashtadhyayi Vyakhyananveshanam. Today I will explain Dhatu filters. Yet another attendee wants to learn something else. So instead of having it in bits and pieces, it's always better if a full class is recorded on this. So after class number 20, when the module will end, I will discuss this. In the same spirit, after the class number 20 is over, I want to conduct one class purely for Samshaya Nirakaranam, clearing the doubts. Therefore, if you have any doubts, start sending them on the group. Start sending them to me, either directly personal message or on the group. I will collect all these doubts and I will put them in one brand new presentation and discuss it in after class number 20. So when is the first semester going to end? Will there be break after first semester? Yes. So first semester is there, right? The plan is here. Ashtadhyayi Parichaya, course material. So there is a course plan over here, course outline. So we are currently here in the Vyakarana Shastra Pravesha is done, Paniniya Pravesha is done, Samnya Paribhasham and Sandhi Prakaranam are pending. We will be able to finish them by end of May, not end of May, probably mid-June or so. If not, we will push it a little bit ahead. So it's not like hard and fast, but I'm thinking that this term will be over in till June. Then there will be around 3 weeks or months break where there will be a midterm exam, and then we will start with the term 2. So at the end of each term, there will be 100 marks, multiple choice exam, open book. You are free to see whatever books you want and answer the question. But then that will be after the 4th module. And then we will have a month's break or so, and then we will continue with the 5th module. Sudha Valliji, do you have another question?
Yes, Mahoday. While submitting the homework, is it necessary that it should be in the PDF form or JP? Can it be in a JPG? Because it is coming in the JPG also.
It can be in the JPG form. There is no concern. It can be in whichever form that classroom accepts. Okay.
Dhanyavada.
Astu. There are no more questions, no more raised hands. So samapayamaha. In the next week, we will meet again. So 4 classes are remaining for this module to be over. Next week, there are 2 classes. And after that, as I mentioned, I want to take 2 full classes only on discussing various aspects of Vidhi Sutras. So we will take them in the upcoming course. अष्टाध्यायी जगन्माता यस्य चित्तात् समुत्थिता वेदानामुपकाराय तस्मै पाणिनये नमः शब्द ब्रह्म समाराध्य कृतवान्यो विलक्षणं सर्वाश्चर्यमिदं शास्त्रं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः येन धौता गिरः पुंसां विमलैः शब्दवारिभिः तमश्चाज्ञानजं भिन्नं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः धन्यवादः।